Okay, continuing the making of Jack's costume from this simplicity pattern. I've cut out my waistcoat from some grey brown striped material, but I'm going to make an alteration first before I go any further, and that is because on the pattern it says to use a ribbon or a cord that you tie into the sides of the waistcoat to pull it in, but that's not how Jack's waistcoat looks. If I just pan over here to a picture of the back of his waistcoat, it actually has two pieces of material that are pulled together, and I'm going to presume they've got buttonholes on there. Well, I should put 3 buttonholes on myself, and then the whole thing is pulled together with the lace. So what I've done is I've cut out 4 pieces of material, 2 for each side of this particular shape. Okay, the longest section is about 12 centimetres and the shortest section is about 9, and they're going to be sewn along 4 sides, but I'm going to leave about a 2-inch gap at this side so the whole thing can be turned inside out, and I shall do that twice, so I have 2 pieces. Okay, I've sewn around my shape and I've left a small gap there so that I can turn the whole thing inside out. Before you do that, make sure that you snip your corners. Then the next stage will be to turn the whole thing inside out. Make sure you push up into the corners and push them out. Next you'll be hand sewing where that small gap was, and the next stage will be machine stitching around 3 sides of the shape. And what will happen then is that where your mark is for your waist, you're going to be going about 4 inches in from the side, like that, and then where you haven't machined, that will go straight onto your waistcoat with a row machine stitching, and you'll do that on the opposite side. Okay, I've sewn those on now down this side, so they look like that, and I've also put on my 3 buttonholes. I shan't cut those just yet, I'll leave them to the last, and they're just for threading cord through, so I shan't have to make the slit too big. Okay, they've been attached now, just on the one side, and the 2 front pieces have been attached at the shoulder seam. Now then, with the lining, what I did, I wanted to look a bit distressed, so I put the sheeting up into a tight ball inside the laundry bag, put it into the washing machine, and ran a cycle with it with antique grey Dylon. And when the whole thing came out, it was done all patchy, like it was faded. So I'm going to be using this for the lining of the waistcoat. The next step is to put all the shoulder seams together. So put the lining together at the shoulders, and then you'll put the fabric together at the shoulders, give them all a press, and then laying all the pieces right side to right side. What you're going to do is start at your mark on the pattern, and you're going to be sewing the 2 pieces together all the way around the neck, down the other side, along the bottom, and then up to your mark. Just turn around a bit. Then leave a gap. You're going to be sewing around the sleeves to the end. Then you leave this gap and sewing along the bottom. And then you leave that gap up to the armhole. Okay, that's the two pieces of the waistcoat all sewn together. Before you turn the whole lot inside out, remember to trim all the edges, cut the corners, and make sure that you snip up to your sewing lines on any curves. Okay, that's all the buttonholes done, and all the buttons have been sewn on. You don't need to go all the way down to the bottom like the pattern says, only because there's only 12 buttons that have got to be sewn on. Okay, now we've got to do a bit that's a little bit fiddly. We're going to sew up the side seams, which means that you go to the back of the waistcoat and you have to sew up the two outer layers from the top seam right down to the bottom seam. Right, we've sewn the inside seam, and now we're going to do the outside seam. Now we're going to the inside seam, which can be a little bit fiddly, so we'll just do it in a couple of stages. If I just open this, you can see that the outside seam has been sewn. Then with one piece of the lining, pin it all back against the seam, and then just leave the other one as it is. Lay that down flat against all the seams together, like that. Then this will come over, and then you're going to hand stitch the open section shut. Now we're going to do the pocket flaps. When you've sewn your two pieces together, before you turn it right side out, don't forget to clip your corners. Then when it's turned inside out, what I'm going to do is run a sewing line along the three edges, leaving this edge open. And before I put it onto the waistcoat, I should be making 3 buttonholes. The next thing to do is to sew on the flaps on the front of your waistcoat. So place your pattern onto your waistcoat front, then transfer the markings that you see onto your coat using tailor's chalk, and this is the line we will use to sew your pocket flap. Remember to do it upside down. To finish off the pockets, once you've sewn the flap down, trim it up close to the stitching. Then you'll be turning the whole thing over, and then run a line of stitching across the top. Don't finish off the thread, pull that through to the back, and then tie a knot to secure it. Okay, that completes the pockets. I've put 3 buttons under each flap to finish it off. So that is your completed jacket. And because Jack never has his jacket done up, it will be entirely up to you whether you want to put a small slit in your buttonholes or just leave it like that. But for the next part of the video is the fun part, because you've got brand spanking new waistcoat here, and any respecting Jack Sparrow would not be seen out and about with a brand new waistcoat on. So for the next part of the video I'm going to be showing you how to distress your fabric and to make it look as though it's been lived in for a while. Okay, I've taken a scrap of the material that I've used for the waistcoat, and I sprinkled on just ordinary flour, and I've got some medium weight sandpaper. What I'm going to do now is sand in the direction of the threads, turn it around, and then go across the threads with the sandpaper. So what this is doing is that it's roughening up the nap of the fabric and breaking up the fibres, and the flour is helping to lighten it so it looks as though it's faded. So when I put that next to the original material, you can see what the difference is between the two. And then you can do this to the whole waistcoat. I shan't do it to this one, but you could do it to yours. And when I've done that on Jack's waistcoat, he has a few tears and cuts. So what I shall do is get a cheese grater, and I shall show you how to do that in a moment. Okay, I really should be using a metal cheese grater with this, but I don't have one to hand. But I have one of these cheese graters that has the varying holes. So I'm going to use the coarsest one I can, and I'm going to rub the material across it like that. Don't have to do it for too long, so that when you take a look you can see how frayed the material has become in those areas, and that's how to make it look frayed and worn. Finally, I bought some black leather cord that I've threaded through the buttonholes at the back of the waistcoat. Try your waistcoat on whoever's going to be wearing it, and then pull it in as tight as it needs to be, and then fasten it off with a bow. Okay, I've now given this waistcoat the distressing treatment all over, so I hope you can pick up how battered and worn it looks compared to what the brand new one looked like. I shan't be distressing this particular one because I'd like to sell it.